It's so easy to see someone's curated pictures or words or whatever it may be on social media, and then to compare it to our average Tuesdays or our average days, and then to become jealous or to become, just discontent in our own marriages. And I think that ultimately, so first of all, it's like, why is this bad? Is it because it breeds discontentment? It breeds ungratefulness, which then breeds discontentment.
Hey, 1 Degree fam, I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm Zan, and this is the 1 Degree Podcast, where we talk about what it looks like to be married as followers of Jesus.
Look, we know that life gets full. Marriage, kids, work, church, sports, the list goes on and on. But we believe that a thriving marriage does not happen by accident.
Each episode will give you real conversations, practical tools, and biblical encouragement to help you connect deeply with your spouse and live on mission together.
So, whether you're folding laundry, driving to work, or maybe even working out, we're glad you're here with us.
Let's dive in.
What is up, 1 Degree fam?
Welcome back to the comfy, cozy, virtual leather couch.
That is right.
I crushed it.
You did. That's right. And if you notice, I went first today and Zan went second, and she did the comfy, cozy, virtual leather couch.
If you notice, you're real loyal.
Yeah, you are loyal.
Anyone would notice that.
Nah, but today I want to start out with a question. My question is, have you ever been scrolling on social media and then you come across like an anniversary post or a birthday post, and your immediate thought is, oh, I wish my husband or I wish my wife was more like that, or why can't we have that in our marriage, or they talk so well and they love each other so much, why don't we have a love like that in our marriage? Like, has that ever happened? And I guess I'll pose it to you because you're the only one that can answer.
Well, when you were first talking, I was thinking like photos, and I was thinking, no, never, because I never look at somebody's trip or something and think like, oh, I wish that was me, because I just simply do not ever want to go anywhere. But I guess like stuff like that with words, I would say. Like if somebody's articulating really well, not like, oh, I wish we had that. We do, but like, it can... I don't know, like that's sometimes a thing where you feel like, oh, wow, they really got it all together. They really love each other so deeply, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think that happened for me, I think a lot early on in our marriage, less so now. But I think it's really easy.
To be clear, I really don't think that often, but more so I could see myself falling into that with like written words of how somebody feels about it.
And I agree. I think for all of us, right? Like someone writes of, oh, I love my husband so much. He gets up in the middle of the night with the baby. And, you read that and your first thought of, I wish my husband would get up in the middle of the night with the baby.
Here's a very simple example that I actually don't, like I am very grateful for everything that you are. But sometimes I see husbands, it's like my husband, my do-it-all fixer husband.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. Mine's really good at sports, but he couldn't fix anything in our house or do any kind of like home DIY project for me.
Yeah.
But you're great at doing random sports. Okay.
That was just so helpful in our marriage. You would much rather that I was good at like putting in a
I can appreciate
outlet or that I was just eager to come home and put together your standing desk or something like that.
Yeah, no, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need you to do my assembling.
But I think if we're honest, that most of us have probably fallen into that at some point, where either we're out to dinner with friends and we're like, oh, they love each other so much, or you see a post on social media and it's like, oh, I wish we had what they had, or something along those lines. And ultimately, comparison is a quiet killer of marriage contentment, which honestly sucks because we live in a time where
you can compare with this in half a second.
Yeah, well, not just you can compare, but like you are surrounded by comparisons all the time, like through social media and everything like that. Like it is more easy to compare.
The accessibility to comparison is unlike any other era of history. Like Laura Ingalls,
Oh, yeah.
To compare, they would have had to like trek all the way to town to even see what somebody had.
Which they did like 3 times a year.
I'm just saying, like, I know that's a drastic example that comes up a lot for us because we're always reading Little House on the Prairie, but it's like even childhood me Like, had I been 30 in my like in the 90s, it's like you just simply did not know. I saw something the other day. It was like you didn't know what people's houses looked like unless you were invited to their house.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have social media where you could see the inside of everyone's house on the daily basis. Like, people weren't posting like, oh, I just bought this house. And then you're like, look, you're seeing that. Like, you only
I'm going to go look it up on Zillow or whatever to see.
That typically people aren't posting their address. But you know what I'm saying? Like, people aren't posting.
Oh, you're finding it, though.
I'm finding it. Reverse image look. I'm just kidding. I actually haven't done that for a house. But if you send me your address, there's a strong chance that I've like scoped it out. Anyway, what is the point of this? Exhibit. We can compare everything.
Yes.
We can compare. Yeah. I mean, you didn't know how somebody was parenting unless you were walking alongside them in their parenting because they weren't talking about it on the internet. They were like, it's just a totally different, even from 10 years ago. Well, how old am I now?
15.
Okay. 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm not 15. That wasn't what you were
No, but I'm saying,
yes,
like, I would say it's more
I'm trying
than
to
10.
think, like, okay, so Instagram came out when I was in high school. It's like pre that era.
So I guess that was like 10 years ago, yeah.
No, I was in high school, not in high school when I was 20. So I'm saying 15 was accurate.
Okay, 15. Okay.
I was 15 in high school when Instagram came out. I was like 15. Anyway, point is that would have been a completely different era of comparison. And even then, I remember growing up with comparison. But it's like, how much more? I cannot imagine being in middle school right now.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Like, middle school was hard enough. Not even like, I didn't even have an uncomfortable middle school experience, but like just that insecurity of everything. Imagine having the internet.
No,
anyway, not the point of the conversation.
But what we are talking about is that it is so easy to compare, and everyone would agree with that. And that when it comes to marriage, this comparison is far more harmful for your marriage than you may realize. And I'll give a little bit of a caveat, a little sneak peek here, is that I think that comparison, there can be an aspect of it that's a little bit helpful, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Exposure to others.
Yes, maybe that's good. Exposure,
like,
good. That's a
you
good
don't want to
clarification.
just put your head in the sand and never see other marriages.
Yes, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So we won't get ahead of it. But let's start off with, okay, what does comparison actually look like when it comes to marriage? So let's start off there. Like, we already gave some examples. You're scrolling on social media and it's, a happy anniversary post and, someone shouting out their wife for, oh, they prioritize their kids, but they're also able to work out and do this X, Y, Z. And, your first thought goes to, oh, I wish my wife prioritized being in shape. Or,
do you?
No, I'm giving examples. Like what are some practical, tangible examples of what comparison could look like?
Any facet of life. So like fitness, okay? Like, I wish we were running marathons together. I wish we were, you can take any degree. Or like, I wish they were on a weight loss journey. Or you take work, like, oh, I wish my husband had this job. I wish my wife had this job. I wish whatever. Homes. I wish we had a home like this. I wish, like, it can be both characteristics of your spouse, identities of your spouse. Like, I wish my wife wanted to homeschool. I don't even know. I hate it. Literally feels ick to even say any of these sentences because comparison is so ugly. But I'm also not saying that we don't all experience it to some degree.
Yeah, exactly. I think we do. Or even just like you're watching a movie and two people are like passionately in love and it's like, oh, why can't we have a love like that or something like,
Or there's just so many different, I think it is helpful to name them.
yes.
I want to keep naming them because I think it is it validates you. It also maybe brings to light things that you don't even know subconsciously.
I remember a big one when we were newly married and I was surrounded by people in seminary. The common one would be like, oh, I wish Zan was this passionate about, studying the word or doing evangelism or whatever it may be.
Yeah, because you were like very immersed in people in that, like,
that was
their life right then.
Yeah, no, that was a common one.
Yeah, I'm not thinking of necessarily of even things I thought personally. I'm just thinking in general what
examples
could come up. But yeah, I think like jobs, fitness, or just like appearances, the level of connection, like appreciation you have for each other, those talents. Like, I wish my wife could cook. I wish my husband was handy. I wish, like, whatever it is that you value, it's really easy to see that in other people, like you're looking for it in other people, and it almost like perpetuates your ungratefulness for that. And I'm kind of jumping ahead a little
Yeah,
bit,
no,
but
for sure.
anyway, yeah.
And I think it's important to recognize that this is so pervasive in a lot of ways because of social media and the access that we have to curated versions of other people, whether it be, movies have been around for a long time, but especially when it comes to social
I feel like the
media.
difference is a movie, while yes, it is possible to compare, and even like reading books, like it's sometimes people get in this of
Yeah.
like, oh, I want that. But it's easier cognitively to separate that from reality.
Mhm.
When you see influencers or even just real life humans that
Yeah.
on the internet with their highlight reels, and we hear this all the time, but I feel like hearing it in your head and like really deeply believing it and like having it change how you actually view the people on social media are two
Yeah.
different things. It's like when you see those people who are not paid actors, even though like there's a blurry line when it gets to influencers, that it's just easier to compare.
Yeah.
It's harder to separate that from reality because that is what you're perceiving as someone's reality, even though it very much is a highlight reel.
Yeah, and
No
I think
one is live streaming their fighting. No one is
yeah.
like, for instance, here's a really good example. You could see, I don't really share on social media ever anymore after I lost it all, but I could have highlighted a whole work trip that I went on. It would have been all these highlight reels. Behind the scenes, there was a lot of stress of like this tension of Zan's gone a lot. We need to figure this out. And like there was a
Yeah,
lot of stress and tension
it's
around
true.
that. And it's like you would see like, oh, her husband just like holds it down at home and she's like has so much fun. And like, I wish it was like that for us. I wish I could get away. And really, it was actually a very stressful thing that we had to have a lot of conversations to
Yeah.
work through. I don't know. That's just an example of like, why would I have ever shared the other side of it on social media? Obviously, I'm not advocating for that, but like it would be easy to just see the one side
But
and
I
just
think
ignore that
people
anything
share what they want people to see on social media. Like, you're not sharing your deepest, darkest
and sometimes
secrets
it's
and
not
your
even
heart, and often
right. And sometimes I'm just gonna say it's not even that like it's not deceptive. I'm not. No one's trying to share their highlight reel.
Yeah,
I don't think some people are maybe
yeah,
trying
for
to
sure.
paint a picture. But if I were documenting something, it wouldn't be for the sake of just like making it seem a type of way. But again, it's the bias of what's left unseen. Anyway, I'll stop talking. I've said a
No,
lot
I
more.
was just gonna say, it's so easy to see someone's curated pictures or words or whatever it may be on social media, and then to compare it to our average Tuesdays or our
Mhm.
average days, and then to become jealous or to become, just discontent in our own marriages. And I think that ultimately, so first of all, it's like, why is this bad? Is it because it breeds discontentment? It breeds ungratefulness, which then breeds discontentment, right? Like when you're constantly comparing to others, you become ungrateful for your marriage and for your spouse, which then breeds, discontentment. And
Mm.
I think ultimately, too, and this is a big thing that I also think that this then turns into a trust issue of think back to the garden of Adam and Eve. They're in the garden and then, they eat from the fruit and God approaches Adam and God says, did you eat from the fruit? And he immediately he puts Eve under the bus and he says, the woman that you gave to me
Mhm.
gave me some fruit and I took and I ate of it. Like when we're constantly thinking of, oh, I wish my spouse did this, or I wish my spouse was more like that. What we're ultimately doing is that we're doing the same thing that Adam did in the garden of, hey, I am not trusting that God gave me this spouse, God gave me this marriage in order to flourish and in order to grow and to be strengthened. We're ultimately turning it and being like, I wish my spouse that God gave me was more like this. God, why could you not have given me a spouse that was more like XYZ?
And that blame shifting piece of like,
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for cultivating this desire that I have. Like my spouse is responsible for it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that there's a lot of, okay, that's why comparison can be so harmful and detrimental, and you go down that spiral and then it becomes very easy to justify poor behaviors or just outright sinful behaviors on your own standpoint of like, if my spouse was more loving, then I would be more willing to do the dishes. Or if my spouse was, no, but like if we had a passionate, I wouldn't feel the need to turn to pornography, or I wouldn't feel the need to like go, like all of that kind of things. If my wife was meeting my needs, then I wouldn't have to, watch pornography. Like, you know what I'm saying? And it just turns into this comparison, leads to ungratefulness, leads to discontentment, leads to justifying sinful behaviors.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. So what do we do instead?
Well,
if ungratefulness breeds discontentment, if you've been around the block here at 1 degree, gratefulness breeds contentment. We want contentment in our marriages. We vow to contentment in our marriages when we get married. And so when you have that, so maybe internally or externally, when you have those thoughts of, I wish my spouse was more X, or I wish my spouse did this, thinking of something that you're grateful that they do.
Yeah.
And I think that can seem like, oh, isn't this kind of just like toxic positivity? Or in the sense, I don't even really know what people totally mean with that one, but I could see the devil's advocate saying, okay, well, there are valid concerns that you could have in your spouse and valid grievances, and to ignore those and just sugarcoat them, or like just bypass them to then say something that you're grateful for is not helpful. True that there are sometimes things that should be talked about. Okay, like if you never help out around the house, if your spouse never helps out around the house and you are bearing the entire burden of the entire family, that is an issue. You don't just say, well, I'm grateful that they enjoy their job and they're really good at their job and they just, even if they don't do anything at home, but at the same time, like, focusing on what you want more of in your marriage versus like what is lacking.
And I think that's the key differentiator. One of the key differentiators is you are focusing on what you want more of your marriage, and you are focusing on yourselves, not necessarily on, hey, I wish my spouse was more like this person's spouse. And I think that, in general, comparison is very like vague and general of, oh man, why can't my spouse be more helpful around the house, versus, approaching your spouse and if you came to me and were like, hey, Nathaniel, I would really appreciate if you helped more with the dishes. Could we do them together tonight or something like that?
The way this comes up as an example, like every 6 episodes.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, that's just like the classic one that's ingrained in my head. But I think that, hey, comparison is going to be, obviously, comparing to others, it's going to be more general, it's going to be more vague, and it's not going to have a solution. Like, if only my spouse was more loving like this person's spouse. Like that doesn't have a solution. That's very vague. It's all this kind of stuff.
It might not even be vague. I think that there could be comparison that could be very specific. But I do think what you're saying is true of it. It presents an issue without a solution.
Yeah, exactly. Versus, hey, I really appreciate physical touch. I would really love it if we could pursue like holding hands or, whatever it may be. And, the 6-second kiss before leaving for work every day, all of those kind of things. That's a Gottman thing. Yeah. And so that's where I want to get into of just really quick answering the question of like, what's the difference between being like getting stuck in comparison and then also versus being exposed to good habits that you want to implement in your marriage.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Say it again.
What's the difference between being stuck in comparison that is harmful for your marriage versus being exposed to good behaviors that you want to implement in your marriage?
Yeah, I think that comparison is, I think they're a difference of heart posture. You could look at the same marriage and have a heart posture of comparison, or have the heart posture of like being inspired and being maybe convicted, even depending on what we're talking about here. But so I think that in comparison, you again are focusing on the lack. Like, oh, they have this, I lack this, we lack this in our marriage, versus exposure. So I'm thinking like, okay, you are with a really strong, say we're with a strong older couple in the church, like a couple that's just a little bit ahead of us in life. They're 5, 10 years along, or further along. And we are looking at all these things that they're doing well, rather than like, oh, so-and-so does this and this and this, and we don't do this and this and this. From the standpoint that we've been talking about here, of like from an ungrateful standpoint and a accusatory standpoint and a blame shifting standpoint, which I guess kind of redundant. It's like, hey, I really aspire to be like, to have this aspect of their marriage, like, or I aspire to grow in this aspect that they are strong in. Like, that's what I would say.
So what I would say is that it focuses on like instead of asking the question of what do you lack, it's asking the question of like, what do you want your marriage to look like? And so it's like, hey, I think that there's room for us to grow in communication. Like, I think that implementing a weekly marriage meeting could really help us grow in our communication. Like, that is different versus, oh man, like, I wish my husband was open to do a weekly marriage meeting. Like, it's kind of, when you put it like that, it's hard to identify the differences, but you can hear that difference, of like, hey, I want to grow in our communication. Like, I would love to initiate a weekly marriage meeting versus like this defeatist attitude of just like, oh, my husband will never be open to that. Like, I wish I had a better husband.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that comes back to everything. It's always how things are brought up, and it's not like, oh, why can't you be more in shape like X, Y, and Z? It's like, hey, how could we cultivate health in our marriage?
Yeah.
Like together.
I want to be a couple that values health. How can we cultivate this together?
Yeah. And again, there's always so much nuance to things, like how you bring things up and what the dynamics are in your marriage. But in general, thinking about it from that perspective.
Yeah.
The last thing I will say is I think that it is really important, with everything that we said, in light of the age we live in with social media, now even throw AI into the mix, all the things. We need to be more intentional than ever with how we curate and, curate what we're consuming, what we're exposing ourselves to. And that's not just like, oh, put Net Nanny on or like Covenant. I'm not talking even like, we got to go beyond that. We're not even talking about the like pornographic things. We're talking about like, you got to put blockers and just like filters on who you're following on social media. If you find yourself if you find yourself feeling like you need to fill an Amazon cart every time you open social media because you follow this one person, it's like, that's a problem. If you find yourself thinking less of your spouse because of somebody you follow, because they're probably posting really positive things. It's not like they're an inherently negative account, It's like, that's why I'm saying like, we need to go a step further than like inappropriate accounts. That's not the problem. Like, we know that we shouldn't. That's not our temptation. It's the good accounts. It's the like happy Christian marriage accounts. It's the whatever.
Yeah, so stop listening to this podcast.
That's not what I'm saying. But anyway, just like you got to be honest with yourself of like, when you stop going through this person's stories, or I don't even know what, reading certain book, whatever it is, like, does it make you look at the lack in your marriage rather than having a like desire for growth, a like healthy desire for growth?
Yeah. Does it leave you in an envious place, or does it leave you in a place of like, oh man, I want to pursue this in our marriage? You know, and that's where I think that's the answer. It's like, you need to turn from a place of envy, of just like focusing on others and what they have and what you don't have, to a place of, hey, I really think this would be awesome to implement in our marriage.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big piece of it, of like that heart posture of envy versus that heart posture of humility and seeking to grow and to learn from others.
The most tangible example that I can think of, and it's not marriage related right now, so maybe it's not that helpful, but like, the way social media can make me feel about parenting, just seeing reels and just comments and all of those things, versus right now I'm reading like a really gospel-centered mom book of just like gospel truths for moms, essentially. And the way those two things, the actions that either of those things make me take, of like, and just how my desire for the Lord in either of them, one, it's like, that's not it at all. It's more anxiety based, or just like, that comparison trap, versus the other, makes me just like want to pursue the word and the Lord more deeply. And so just being honest with yourself about those things.
Yeah. And I think it just, like I said, it comes back to that idea of reframing of like, oh, why can't my spouse be more like this versus like, hey, how can we cultivate a marriage that we really love and enjoy and that glorifies the Lord, and just having that mindset and like what helps you cultivate that mindset versus what cultivates an envious mindset. So then 1 degree shift, closing it out. What's the 1 degree shift? And I would start with, I think that if ungratefulness breeds discontentment and gratefulness breeds contentment, voice something that you're grateful for your spouse today. Like voice it out loud to them of like, hey, I really appreciate that you value this, or I appreciate that yesterday you did this. And I just really appreciated it and felt loved by it, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, say it out loud or write a letter. I think you could also, in the vein of the difference between comparison and exposure and everything that we talked about with that, asking your spouse, what is something that you want to pursue in our marriage? What do you want to cultivate together in our marriage? And posing that conversation.
Yeah, like what do you want our marriage to look like? Yeah. We even just had that conversation recently, like when you came back from your trip and I talked about like, hey, these are like the habits and rhythms that I really want us to focus on.
Yeah.
And
I feel like there's a lot of fruitful conversation after that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Catch you next week. Thanks for sitting on the cozy, comfy leather virtual couch.
There you go. Love you, 1 Degree fam.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of the 1 Degree Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'd be so appreciative if you take just a few seconds to leave a rating and a quick review. We love to hear your feedback, and those ratings really do help make it easier for others to find this podcast.
And if you want to continue this chat or share your takeaways, we'd love to hear from you. Head on over to our Instagram at the 1 Degree Podcast and leave a comment or send us a DM. We can't wait to hear from you. Catch you next week, 1 Degree fam.